I tell you what, today has just been kind of one disappointment after another. We ended up, well, Thursday when I got rained out from spreading fertilizer, we ended up having another storm come through, depending on where you were at and where it hit you, anywhere between about 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock. Actually, it hit about 9 o'clock, and depending on where you were at was depending on how long it lasted. Luckily, at my house, it was a one-hit wonder. It dropped about 2/10 and quit. But depending on where you were at, my rain gauge is the lowest total I've heard so far. Just south of the border here in Indiana, by the elevator, they got 6/10. Up a little ways north of here in Pipestone, they had 1.5 inches. There was around 1 inch at my boss's farm. And then the kicker of it is, you go down the road here about 2.5 miles, maybe 3 miles. I got a buddy down there working ground on some black dirt right now, and he's rolling dust. There's a little pocket there that didn't get a lick of rain out of that whole thing. So they're down there working ground right now. I have been, well, like I say, this whole morning's been a disappointment. It started off, I got here and I was like, I've got this quick hitch. I've been meaning to finish getting it put on a tractor because it's old. It's like a TSC special something, and I didn't like the way it was put together, so I added a bunch of iron to it. I put straps on either side and boxed some stuff in, and just beefed it up a little bit. And I had to finish some stuff up to make it fit the Oliver hitch. And I went to put it on this morning and didn't finish what I needed to do to finish modifying it, and went to put the pins in, and you can't really tell on camera. It's even hard to see in person, but I couldn't get the pins to go all the way through. And I got to looking at them, and cheap Chinese shit, they used just regular mild steel pins and they're bent. They got a big wow, like they're bananaed. And they're soft. I tried to straighten this one, and you could see I just put an indent in it with the press. They're soft as shit. So I was like, okay, I'm not using these because I don't want to be carrying an implement down the road and have them things shear off and just have the whole smear fall off the back of the tractor. So went to Rural King, figured I'd get me some good hardened lower link pins. Yep, nope. Rural King didn't even have top link pins. No lower link pins, no top link pins. If you had category 3 stuff, they had a whole slew of category 3 pins, no category 2 stuff, not a lick of it. So against my better judgment, I went down the road to TSC. They had some cat 2 upper link pins, no lower link stuff. So I'm probably gonna have to run to the deer dealer this week when we get a rain day and see if they have any cat 2 stuff, because I want to put some good hardened pins and not use this chintzy thing for the top link pin. So I can't put the hitch on, and when I was coming back from town, I was like, okay, I'll see if I got lucky and maybe some of my ground was in some of the pockets that didn't get any rain. Now I drove from one end of where I farm all the way down to the other, and the closest field I got that might go is my little one down in Indiana. But even at that, I'd really like to see it sit the rest of today, because you stick your hand in it and you get down about yay far and it's really sticky. So I'd really like to let it sit at least the rest of today, and then get down there first thing in the morning with a field cultivator and bust it open and let it sit till about noon, and then it'll probably dry out pretty good, and then go down and color mulch it and plant it. But now they're saying we got a 50% chance of rain overnight between like midnight and 3 o'clock. If I go down there and try to work it right now, it's just gonna make a mess. Or well, if I went down there and field cultivated it right now, it probably wouldn't be too bad. But I still have to let it sit and dry out before I color mulched it and planted it. Otherwise, it wouldn't plant for shit because it's sticky. And I don't want to go down there and hit it with field cultivator and let it sit overnight and have it get rained on and then have to go down and stir it up again. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be the typical farmer. Like, oh, I want it to quit raining, and then 20 minutes later, oh, we need more rain. I'm not trying to do that, because I'm also sitting here thinking that about this time last year, we didn't know it yet, but we were in for about a month and a half of hell with absolutely zero rain. So, I mean, I'm not trying to sound ungrateful for the moisture. If it could start giving us like 5, 6 days, 7 days in between rains to where we could actually dry out and get some stuff done, that would be ideal. So anyway, that's been the morning so far. It's been very unproductive trying to find something productive to do. So I can't put the hitch on because I don't have pins, so I gotta take this back down to the barn and get it out of the way. And I'm gonna go hook on the field cultivator and bring it down here because I gotta fix a couple things on it real quick. And then I don't know what I'm gonna do after that. I gotta go trim some trees at a field. I don't got to. I'd like to go trim some trees at a field over here. I also went over this morning and looked at the new hay field, and I'm gonna have to brush hog that because it did the same thing as the first hay field did last spring. It came up, it's got a bunch of wild mustard in it. You can't be feeding that to horses. So I gotta go brush hog that to get the wild mustard out of it. But there's also some water standing in it, so I don't want to go over there and rut it up because it's a hay field. So I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. Just trying to do something. Alright, so what we got going on here is I need to make a new pin for there because I'm pretty sure it happened last spring when I was running this thing. I lost that pin, so threw a hitch pin in there to get through and kind of forgot that I needed to make it until I was putting that new hayfield in last fall, and like, oh yeah, I need to do that. So, and need to, let's see, like that one there's eating the cotter pin off and it's about ready to go through. Need to pull these out and put a clamp on them and pinch these things shut so that they're not sprung open, and probably put a flat washer on there. Probably what I should have done to begin with, but you'll have that. Alright, got a couple holes to drill and then a weld to make. Okay, there's the replacement pin. So while that's cooling off, so I don't want to quench it and risk tempering that weld. We can get these guys fixed. So I need my pliers. What I'd really like to do with this thing, but you can't find them, at least around here, is I'd really like to put, I hear a teeter. I'd really like to put a, I think Unverfirst makes them, maybe Yetter does make, maybe Yetter makes them too, but they make that row of single rolling baskets that's made for mounting on the back of field cultivators and stuff. I'd like to find one of those for this thing and get rid of the buster bar, but you can't find them used, at least around here, and buying them new is a little bit ridiculous for what they are. So we just keep rocking the old button. Will you come out? And you just got to do something to pinch them things shut because they're sprung open. Cooperate. Perfect. Put a little flat washer on there. New cotter pin. And we'll see how well that system holds up. Alright, this thing is pretty much ready to go. I did notice when I was working on it, I got 1, 2, and I thought there was a couple more. I got some broken springs, which that's no big deal. They're still available new. 3. And I probably just need to order a handful of them. 4, 5. Looks like at least 5 broken springs, but like I say, they're still available new. That one's new, that one's new, that one's new, that one's new. There was a bunch, or there was, I think those were all broke when I got it and I replaced them. I thought I still had a few spares laying around, but apparently I used them because I can't find them. So anyhow, now that this thing is as ready as it needs to be, I can go and hook this. And I think we might try to go brush chop that hayfield, because if I wait any longer, it's not going to have enough regrowth on it by the time I want to go make first cutting off that other field. So I'd like to make them both at the same time. So I guess we'll go get the 1600 hooked up to the brush chopper, because I got to clean up some of that burn pile that was there this winter anyhow. So moving on. See, like, if we could get like 2 more good solid days and not having to worry about rain, that field's probably dry enough within reason to be able to think about going on it. But which, if we don't get any rain tonight, that's a big if, go down in the morning, hit that field in Indiana with the field cultivator, come back, grab the 150 and the soil finisher, come over and break this open. By that time, we'll have probably had enough time on it to grab the mulcher and go back down to Indiana and mulch that and get it ready to plant. And then come back up here and grab the 66 and a drill, go down to Indiana, plant beans, come back up here, plant beans. It'd make for a long day, but I think we can make it happen. But that's all dependent on if it doesn't rain tonight. So grab the bucket and the brush hog. And we'll go see what we can do. Alright, so as you can see, it's the wild mustard's not nearly as thick as it was when we did that field over there. Second hole down, or third down, second down, either way, down there. And this is some pretty decent looking for the condition that everything was in. I mean, there's pretty good stand of alfalfa, a lot of the grass came in good. Wild mustard's not thick, but it's thick enough I want to get rid of it. So we'll hit it with the brush hog real quick. There is, and this is where I'm gonna have to be careful, there's some water standing here, and if it becomes a severe problem, I might have to end up, I just don't know where the hell I'd run it to, because there's nowhere to run it to, but might have to figure out a way to either cut in a waterway type swale or something. Of course, once the rain subsides, it's not going to be, it shouldn't be that much of a problem anyhow, but basically this pond overflows and runs over top of the ground, so there's water standing here, there's water standing there. Which this was a wet hole. If anybody remembers, there was that pile of dirt there from where they dug that pond, and this was a wet hole, so I hauled a bunch of dirt from that pile and laid through here. Well, apparently I didn't raise it enough, but as long as I can get through here without cutting in too bad, it should be packed down pretty good. And then you get to this side of it and it's fairly decent. It's going to make for interesting hay cutting though, because obviously can't have the ground that wet while you're trying to make hay. And I'd like to get some fertilizer on this. Now it's almost too late. We're too close to first cutting because you don't necessarily want to do it. I can't remember what the time limit is. There, you want to. It's probably about. I think it's about 4 weeks, but you want to like 4 or 5 weeks prior to a cutting, because if you go too close to a cutting with fertilizer, you can make it too rich and it can mess with the animals and well, yada yada yada. But generally, the rule of thumb, and I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but generally the rule of thumb I always heard is you fertilize in between first and second cutting, and you fertilize after your last cutting in between your last cutting and winter or dormancy. That way it's got something good to go off of for springtime. So that's what I'm going to try to do. See how things go. I might try to buy me a 3-point spreader like what I've been borrowing from my boss, just so I have my own, because that'd be a heck of a lot easier to come out here and do these little hay fields than trying to drag my big spreader through it. So we'll see what we can do here. cleaned that up pretty good, and there should be plenty of time, and looks like we're gonna get some pretty decent weather for some regrowth. So there's just that one little dork right there, which I could probably mow through the middle of it. There's this water standing there and water standing there, but I didn't want to try it and cut more ruts than that one path I already made through there, so we'll just leave it. But now I gotta clean up what's left of this, or tidy up. I ain't gonna get it all the way clean, but where that burn pile was, we took care of. Everything's back in the barn. I think I'm gonna call it a day. Go home and pray that that rain misses us tomorrow, and hopefully be able to get something done. So if I can get that, if I can get Grandma and Grandpa's here in that field down in New Carlisle planting the beans tomorrow, I would consider that a win with the way things are going. It'd be even better if I could get that planted, Indiana planted, and get that load of fertilizer spread out. But that would be a heck of a day. So if it doesn't rain, it might be get these two planted tomorrow and then spread that load of fertilizer out Monday before that next rain. We got rain Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I think is what they're forecasting now. So I don't know, but gotta start getting something in the ground. That being said, we're still not as bad off as we were well, we're wetter than we were this time last year, but if I remember right, and I'd have to go back and look, and I'd probably know by the first video that I posted of planting last year. Well, actually, I just have to go back and look in my I keep a little pocket notebook of planting dates and hybrid location and bean variety. Well, I only plant one bean variety, so I don't really got to keep track of that, but you get what I keep a little notebook with all of that stuff in it, and I just have to go flip through that and figure out. But I'm pretty sure last year it didn't dry up enough for us to start planting until May 11th or 12th. I'm pretty sure. That being said, last year when it finally dried up enough for us to start planting, it just quit raining altogether. So it'd be nice if that didn't happen this year. But that's the thing about farming. First it's too cold and too wet, then it's too hot and too dry, and then you want to defer payment until January. There's an adult joke in that, but I can't really tell that one on YouTube. I could, but that would have to be a parental discretion. I mean, it's not terrible. Actually, I might have told it already. But anyway, so all in all, that new hayfield, I think we get some fertilizer on it after first cutting, and I think it'll come back, and I think it'll be in pretty decent shape. There's a few thin spots. I think one of them is an error on my part. I think I got a little wide on my swath with that spreader. Plus those single spinner spreaders like that. I mean, those little 3.1s are handy because you can get them in tight places and they're maneuverable, and they're handy. But the problem you get when you got a single spinner is they like to favor one side. And if you don't, like what I tried to do on that field, and I ran out of seed one pass before completing the whole field, which is right about where my thin spot is. But I like to half rate it. You do the whole field going, in one direction, and then you turn around and follow your tracks in the other direction. That way your slinger's favoring both sides of the tractor, and you get it even-ish in theory. And then there's two spots that are sandy. And I think the other thing that field is suffering from is because we had zero snow cover this year, but we did have several days where it got below freezing. I think some of that got frostbit, and I think that put it back a little bit too. But if it's anything, and we'll see the other hayfield here soon, but hopefully here soon. If it's anything like that field came back with a vengeance this year. So I think it just takes that mix a year to get matured and get its root system developed and get itself situated, and that other field looks really, really damn good. It's I was over there the other day, or last weekend, and loaded up that pile of scrap that I cleaned out of it when we planted it, and that stuff was already, knee-high, really, really nice dark green. That bald spot on that side hill filled in really nice. It's a good-looking field now. No weeds in it to speak of. So I'm excited for that field. And I went and looked yesterday at another hay field. It's 4.5 acres, something like that. But it was reseeded 2 years ago, I think is what she told me. And I don't know, the guy that there's basically no hay there. It's all buckhorn and crabgrass. That poor lady got took, and like to the cleaners. And I explained to her the situation and told her what she had there, and told her best option if she wanted to keep making hay off of it was to just start over again and reseed it again. So she didn't know if we were gonna put that back into. She's got a horse and 2 donkeys. She's looking to sell the horse because she doesn't have time to ride anymore, and she doesn't think it's fair to keep it penned up at a pasture, which is kind of odd for most horse people, because a lot of horse people don't give a shit. They just want to have the status symbol of their horse in their paddock. So it's nice to have somebody that actually cares about horses. So her hay, and she doesn't know how long she's going to keep the donkeys once the horse is gone. So her hay needs, because it would have been a deal where she just paid me to make the hay. I'd go out there, I'd make it, I'd bale it, I'd drop it, they'd pick it up. So it'd kind of be nice to be hands off and still have the fun of making hay. But so she didn't know if it was worth her time putting it back in. But I told her, I was like, I'd like to find a little bit more hay ground just to cover all my bases and have a little bit extra to sell. And so even if she didn't want to put it back in herself, I told her, go talk it over with people, because her brother owns the property and she just got to make hay off of it for free as long as she paid for all the stuff. And so she had to talk over with her brother and her husband and yada yada yada. But I told her, if it came to the point that she didn't want to pay to put the hay back in herself, but she still wanted some hay, I would be more than willing to just reverse roles, and I'll put the hay in at my own expense and, you know, make it like a regular haymaking deal. I pay her rent on the ground, and then she can just buy hay off of me, which she was willing to do that too. And then once the time come where she just didn't need hay anymore, it would just revert the whole thing to me. So hopefully something comes of that, because it's a nice little field. It's pretty much square. It's got one little dork off the backside, but for the most part it's a rectangle. So it would be nice to make hay off of it, because it's not odd shaped and there's no wet spots in it. And it's fairly close to home, my house. So if I do end up getting that, I'm probably gonna look for one this summer anyway. It's probably gonna be the only Oliver related purchase I'm gonna make this summer. I'd like to find an Oliver 2-wheel rake or 5-bar rake, however you look at it. I'd prefer a 207. I'd take a 107, but I'd prefer a 207. There's actually a really, really nice one up north of here, and I think it's in, or maybe the one in Fremont's the rattier looking one. There's one on Tractor House. There's 2 on Tractor House right now, and one of them is like shed kept, 90% of the paint still on it, all the decals, immaculate condition rake. But they want $2,500 for it, and it's like, for $2,500, so you can keep it, and I'll go out and spend $1,000 on a New Holland 56 that has better part support, and they're a dime a dozen around here. I'd prefer an Oliver, but if I had to get it, or if it came down to the point where I needed a 2-wheel rake and I was going to buy one, I'd also consider a New Holland 56 or a 256. But anyway, that's down the road. So anyhow, we're rambling here and nobody cares about that. So I am going to get stuff put away and shut up and call her an afternoon. And with any luck at all, fingers crossed, everybody sacrifice something to the rain gods, and maybe it'll hold off, and maybe we could get some planting done tomorrow. Hopefully, Lord willing. So that's it for this one, and we'll catch you guys on the next one, right, Teeter? Yeah, it's too hot for you, isn't it? Yeah, you don't like this now, Teeter.